The night she finally broke, the city didn't notice. Rain slid down the darkened windows of a forgotten bus stop. Neon lights blurred into puddles on the road, and the world kept moving as if nothing important was happening. She stood there with her head lowered, hands trembling, believing with all her heart that she was invisible. No one knew her name. No one knew her pain. No one was watching, or so she thought. Somewhere above the street, behind a wall of glass and silence, a man who had everything saw a moment that would change both their lives forever. Before this story goes any further, take a second to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that even the smallest moment can change a life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are hurting. Her name was Alara, and for most of her life she had learned to survive quietly. She was the kind of woman people passed every day without remembering, the kind who blended into crowds because standing out had never felt safe. She worked long hours cleaning offices after everyone else had gone home, scrubbing away traces of lives far better than her own. The pay barely covered rent for a small, damp apartment where the walls were thin and the loneliness was loud. Every month felt like a battle, every night like another test of endurance. She carried her exhaustion like a second skin, smiling when required, nodding when spoken to, never letting anyone see how close she was to falling apart. What no one knew was how much she had already lost. Years earlier, her parents had died within months of each other, leaving her alone before she had learned how to be strong. Promises from relatives faded quickly, and soon she was navigating the world by herself, taking whatever work she could find. Dreams she once had of education, of a different life, were packed away in the same box as old photographs and letters she couldn't bear to throw out. Each disappointment taught her the same lesson again and again. Hope was dangerous. Hope made the fall hurt more. That night at the bus stop, hope finally slipped through her fingers. Her shift had ended late, and the last bus was delayed. Her phone buzzed with a notification she already feared, a message from her landlord reminding her that patience had limits. Her account balance sat dangerously low, numbers glaring back at her like an accusation. The rain soaked through her thin coat as she leaned against the metal bench, shoulders shaking despite her effort to stay composed. She covered her face, letting silent tears fall, convincing herself it was better this way. Crying where no one could see felt safer than breaking down in front of the world. Across the street, high above the noise, stood a building that symbolized success. Its upper floors glowed softly against the dark sky, offices still alive with light long after most people had gone home. One of those offices belonged to Adrian Vale, a self-made millionaire whose name appeared regularly in business magazines. From the outside, his life looked perfect, polished, untouchable. Inside, it was something else entirely. Success had come at a cost he rarely admitted, leaving him wealthy but isolated, surrounded by people who wanted things from him rather than knowing him. Adrian had stayed late that evening, unable to focus, his mind restless despite the quiet. He wandered toward the window, a habit formed during long nights when spreadsheets and silence became unbearable. From his vantage point, the city unfolded beneath him like a living map. That was when he noticed her, a single figure at a nearly empty bus stop soaked by rain, folded inward as if trying to disappear. At first, she was just another shape in the darkness. But something about the way she stood, the way her body trembled, caught his attention and refused to let go. He watched as she wiped her face, glancing around as though afraid of being seen in a moment of weakness. There was a rawness to her pain that cut through the glass and distance between them. Adrian felt something stir that he hadn't felt in years, a deep, uncomfortable recognition. He knew that posture. He had worn it himself once, long before the money, when failure felt inevitable and loneliness pressed in from every side. In that instant, The city blurred, and all he could see was one woman who believed she was alone in her suffering. Alara eventually boarded the bus, unaware of the eyes that followed her departure. She returned to her apartment, peeling off wet clothes, sitting in the dark because turning on the lights felt like too much effort. She lay awake that night staring at the ceiling, thoughts circling endlessly. How long could she keep doing this? How long before everything collapsed? She made herself a quiet promise to get through one more day, not because she believed things would improve, but because she didn't know what else to do. The next morning arrived without ceremony. She woke early, her body aching, her mind heavy. The city looked different in daylight, less forgiving, more demanding. She went through her routine mechanically, cleaning, scrubbing, erasing evidence of other people's success. Yet something subtle shifted when she returned to the same office building later that week. She noticed a new sense of awareness, a feeling she couldn't quite explain, as if her presence mattered in a way it hadn't before. Adrian, on the other hand, couldn't forget what he had seen. The image of that woman at the bus stop stayed with him, interrupting meetings, lingering in the quiet moments. He began paying attention to the people who moved invisibly through his building every night, realizing how rarely he acknowledged them. Guilt mixed with resolve as he recognized a truth he had ignored for years. Wealth meant nothing if it insulated him from humanity. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but he knew he had witnessed something real, something that demanded action. Fate, or perhaps intention, brought their paths closer. Adrian started staying later, watching the rhythms of the building change as day workers left and night workers arrived. He observed Alara quietly doing her job, focused and meticulous, carrying herself with a dignity that belied her circumstances. He noticed how she treated small tasks with care, how she straightened things that didn't need to be straightened, as if order itself brought comfort. Each observation deepened his respect, not pity, but a growing admiration for her resilience. Alara sensed a difference too, though she couldn't explain it. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not watched in a threatening way, but acknowledged. Opportunities began to appear unexpectedly, small but meaningful. A supervisor mentioned additional hours. A CO worker offered help without judgment. These changes didn't fix everything, but they cracked the door to possibility. She found herself standing a little taller, breathing a little easier, daring to imagine that life might hold more than endless survival. As weeks passed, the distance between observer and observed slowly narrowed, not through grand gestures, but through quiet decisions. Adrian began funding initiatives within his company that supported workers often overlooked, implementing programs that offered stability and growth. Alara benefited from these changes without ever knowing their source, feeling only the impact. Training opportunities opened up. Her skills were recognized. For the first time, someone asked her what she wanted for her future. The moment their lives finally intersected was understated, yet powerful. Alara found herself in an office she had cleaned countless times, now invited rather than invisible. The realization of who Adrian was and what he had done hit her not as shock but as understanding. She learned that the night she believed herself unseen had mattered more than she could have imagined. Adrian, in turn, saw not a symbol of charity, but a person whose strength had reminded him of his own humanity. Transformation did not happen overnight. Alara still faced fears, still doubted her worth, still struggled with the habits of a lifetime spent bracing for disappointment. But something fundamental had changed. She was no longer alone in the world. Support replaced silence. Opportunity replaced stagnation. Adrian, too, changed in ways he hadn't anticipated. His success gained meaning, his days gained purpose, and the walls he had built around himself began to fall. As Alara stepped into a new chapter of her life, she often thought back to that rainy night. The bus stop, the tears, the certainty that no one cared. She understood now how wrong she had been, how even unseen moments could ripple outward in ways impossible to predict. Strength, she realized, wasn't the absence of vulnerability, but the courage to endure it. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who might need encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this live through your support, and your engagement helps keep hope alive for others. And before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with the words, "I believe in unseen kindness," if you believe that even when no one seems to be watching, our struggles still matter. Alara no longer waits at bus stops wondering if she will be okay. She walks forward with quiet confidence, carrying the knowledge that her pain was seen, her worth recognized, and her future changed by a moment she thought no one noticed. And somewhere in the city, a man who once measured life in numbers now measures it in lives touched, forever grateful for the night he looked out a window and truly saw everything.